For the best meat you have ever eaten in your life, go to samsbutchershop.com. Enter the coupon code Triple T when you check out for a 10% discount. Let's assume for just a moment that you decide one day that you're going to start your own business. You have an idea for a product, and you invest your time and your energy, your blood, sweat, and tears into this product. And you do all the things that you have to do to develop the product. You build a prototype, you do some test marketing and whatnot. And finally, after a long period of time of testing and working and sacrificing and working nights and weekends, you finally bring this product to market, and the product sells very well. And you have successfully built your business. And let's just say that your business really takes off and becomes hugely successful. This is your business. You built it with your own hands. Now, what are you thinking as a successful business person, a man or a woman? Well, you're thinking about building on the principles that you used to make a successful business, to build a successful business. And time goes on, and let's just say in this scenario that you're married and you and your husband or your wife, you have a child, a son or a daughter. And as time goes on, you get up into maybe your 40s, and your child is growing and they begin to come of age, and it becomes your dream that one day this successful company you've built, you've got now production facilities, you've got a marketing department, you've got a lot of employees, you're nationwide with your product and your business, you've maybe even developed more products that align with your original product, something of this nature. And it becomes the dream, your dream and the dream of your spouse, that one day this child that you are raising or have raised will perhaps one day take the family business over, and they will continue what you began years earlier. Maybe you have more children, and that becomes your dream, and you sit them down and tell them, this is the path I've laid out for you. You have your own life. You can determine your own future. You can go to college if you wish and pursue another avenue. But if you wish to work in the family business, one day it will be turned over to you, and you will lead this business into the next generation. And as things work out, your child grows up, they graduate, perhaps they go to college, to business school, and get further education, and they come home and they go to work in your business, and they learn the trade, they learn all the ins and outs of the business, and they rise up, in the ranks, and they learn the same way that you learned. And one day the day comes that you're getting a little bit older, and now that son or that daughter, they've grown up and they're working in the business, and maybe they get married and they start their own family, and maybe they have a child, and it becomes your dream then as the grandfather or the grandmother that, I would love to see one day my son or my daughter is going to take over the family business, and they're going to do as I've done, and one day my grandson or my granddaughter will take over the family business from them. In other words, you're thinking at this point, let's say you're up into your 60s by this point, maybe 70, and you're thinking about retiring and turning the business over to that son or that daughter, and you're in legacy mode now. You're thinking generations down the line. You've already got a grandson or a granddaughter, and you're thinking, one day my son or my daughter is going to get to where I am in life, and they're going to turn this business, this family business that I have built, they're going to turn it over to my grandson or my granddaughter. And generations from now, my grandson or my granddaughter, they're going to have their own family and their own children. And if they'll just pursue this path that's been laid out, one day I'll have a great grandson or daughter that's going to continue this line. This is my legacy. My family business, this business I built by the sweat of my brow, will be continued on down the line for generations to come. There'll be grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren that I'll never see. I'll be dead and gone by the time they come of age. But I have set things in motion. I have laid out the path. I have been diligent about thinking about the future. And I know they'll put their own twist on things, but the basic principles of success have been laid down for them. And generations of my family that I will never know, but they carry my blood, they carry my DNA. My name will go on. My name is attached to this business. My mark has been made, and it will be continued for generations and generations to come. That's a very good plan, don't you think? That's a very good idea. If you can do something like that and build something successful, that your heirs for generations down the line will reap the profits of your hard work and ingenuity, and they'll continue the line, and that is your legacy. Now, that can occur because of all the hard work you did, but it will also occur because you had the foresight to look into the future and care enough about your heirs, your generational heirs, 100, 200 years from now or more, that are going to continue on the work that you began maybe in your garage. That's quite the legacy. That doesn't happen all that often, but it does happen. And it all happened because you were thinking about the future and you were acting responsibly in the present to guard and provide for the future. What I want to talk today is a subject that is very sad, but I believe, sad to say, that it's very real, because I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that we are living in the days of the fall of the American empire. And I want to talk about why I believe that is the case. None of us really know what's going to happen, but we all know that we're on a slippery slope. We're in perilous territory right now. The whole world, it seems, is on edge. And we don't walk around as Americans of a previous generation did with just a natural confidence that, we live in the greatest nation on earth and the greatest place on earth. It's just that feeling, that intangible, elusive, undefinable feeling is just no longer there. We don't have that confidence any longer. It's been taken from us. If I were making this video somehow in the 1940s or 1950s, it would be a very different story. Perhaps that's when we reached the pinnacle. Post-war, just an absolute boom in America. Businesses were booming. Men had come back from war, and they were starting families, and they were raising the baby boomers, and they were raised in peace, relative peace, not so much the threat of war hanging over them. I'm one of them. This is all we ever knew was America, and the America that we knew was somehow simplistic, but we just had this confidence. Even during the Cold War, we just had the confidence that we live in the greatest place on earth, the greatest nation on earth. We can defend ourselves against any invasion. We've got the best of everything. We've got the best in business. We've got the best in vehicles. We've got the best economy. We've got the best housing. We just got it's the gold standard of earth right here in America. And we just had, as Americans, just that confidence. Some may even say arrogance, but we had it in spades. We don't have that any longer. There are reasons for that, And last night or yesterday afternoon and into the evening, I did a lot of reading. And my reading and studying was, in preparation for today's video, was centered around the parallels of the fall of the Roman Empire and the fall of the American Empire, which I believe we are witnessing, unfortunately. And it brings me no joy to say this. I'm not happy about this. And I'm mainly not happy about this because it just didn't have to be this way. Now, I don't want to leave you hopeless with this video. Whether this present course is reversible remains to be seen. I'm not real optimistic. Perhaps it can be turned around, but I would say history is not on our side in this matter. Now, I'll get back to our hypothetical here in just a moment because I want to draw some comments from that. But imagine you lived a couple of thousand years ago or so, and you were a citizen of the Roman Empire. And that was all you knew. You had been born under a Caesar, for example. And the Roman Empire dominated the world, and you were a member of the Roman Empire, a Roman citizen. And it's all you knew, and as far as you knew, that's the way the world was, and it's the way the world always would be. And the notion that one day there would not be a Roman Empire any longer, perhaps in your lifetime, that wasn't in your thoughts at all. You weren't having to deal with this notion that all that is, all that I know, all that I see, all that is around me could potentially all crash down around my feet. But this generation of Americans of which we are a part, if you are an American watching me, but listen, even if you're outside, if you're in Australia or Japan or Europe or wherever, because this really is a worldwide problem, folks. It really applies to all of us. But you might think, as a Roman citizen, something like that, it would just be unfathomable to you because it's all you know. But this is the day and age we live in. I don't think it's arguable that the American empire as it stands is on a perilous course and the empire is collapsing all around us. Now, why is that? Well, I've come up, and I could make this an hours long video, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to bore you to tears. But I have come up with 5 reasons I believe the American empire is collapsing. And I want to list them for you and talk about them for just a moment, in no particular order. The first reason I believe the American empire is collapsing, and all of these should be obvious, the first reason is because of debt. We all know by this time that we are $34 trillion in debt. Our debt the last few years has been, it almost seems, on an exponential pace. It is just more and more and more. You don't measure it anymore in terms of millions or billions, but trillions. And it becomes, it just increases with such frequency that it almost doesn't make you bat an eye anymore when somebody comes on TV or radio and they say, well, our debt just exceeded 34 trillion, or maybe tomorrow they'll say it's 35 trillion, and it's like, you almost become callous to it anymore. It's just a number. But this is real. These unfathomable numbers are real. And we all know, all of us that have any common sense at all understand that this is not sustainable. Did you know that our number one budget item in the American budget is the service to our debt? Folks, this is not sustainable. If you are a person who has racked up so much personal credit card debt with consumer credit cards, and you're only able to make the minimum payments on your credit cards, but you have so much of it because you bought a washing machine and you put it on the credit card, you bought a new riding lawnmower and you put it on the credit card, and you bought new furniture and you put it on a credit card, and you bought this and this and that, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you've got all these bills coming in every month, and the minimum payment, just to make the minimum payment on your credit card, is in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, with exorbitant interest rates, and it's all you can do just to make the minimum payment. How many of you know that if you live like that, you're going to sink? You can't live like that. But that's how the American government is handling its budget. I say budget as if we have one, but nobody pays attention to it by and large. There are only a few people with any fiscal sanity left in Washington. And we borrow money from China, or we print money at the Federal Reserve. We print paper with dead presidents on it, and it's basically an IOU, and we say to the people, this is money. That's really not money. It's just paper. It's an IOU. It's fiat money. It's phony. It's counterfeit. You can't go and print money on your copy machine and call that money, because you'd be arrested for counterfeiting. But that's exactly what the American government does. And there's no end in sight. There is no collective call in Congress to balance our budget, rein in our spending, cut the size of government, and get this ship turned around financially. There are just not enough voices saying that. I mean, I can count on one hand the people in Congress who are talking about this horrific debt. Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, Mike Lee, and maybe 3 or 4 others. But by and large, it's simply ignored, and it's just the ultimate case of kicking the can down the road and ostensibly saying to generations of Americans to come, you deal with it. It is this crushing debt that is causing the American empire to collapse. The second reason we are collapsing is because of illegal immigration. I saw a statistic cited on Twitter this morning by the aforementioned Senator Rand Paul. He said that during the time of Joe Biden in the White House, America has seen over 10 million illegal immigrants come across our border. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an invasion. Our nation is being invaded and taken over potentially by illegal aliens, many of whom have nothing but ill will for America. This is not sustainable. We are doing nothing to stem the tide of illegal aliens. No matter what Alejandro Mayorkas or Joe Biden tells you, we're not stopping it. It is the duty of the president and the leaders of this country to put an end to this nonsense, but we are simply being overrun by illegal aliens. And a nation cannot sustain itself indefinitely under such a system. It just can't. This happened in Rome. This contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire. We are not immune. We cannot sustain, our system will not sustain such an unprecedented invasion like this. It has to stop if we have any hope of saving the empire from collapse. Number 3. The third reason that the American empire is falling also parallels the Roman Empire, and that reason would be moral degeneracy, moral rot. I don't have to get preachy in this video to talk to you about how we have just fallen into utter debauchery in our country. Folks, we all know it. You don't have to be a Bible thumper to say it. Anybody with any sense at all can look around and see we are just swimming in a cesspool of moral debauchery. where anybody can claim to be anything they wish to be, where lawlessness is the order of the day, with murder rates out of control in our cities, and crime not only not being punished, but being rewarded in places like California. You can't go out in any major American city at nighttime and feel safe. You just can't. Can you name one major American city where I could drop you off downtown, you exit the car, and you could walk around freely at night with not being intimidated at all, no fear at all? You can't do it. You can't do it in America. You can't walk freely down the street in any major American city at nighttime and many in daytime without feeling threatened. This is not sustainable because of the crime that has just gripped our nation. The murder, the robbery, the pillaging, the sexual debauchery, the ease and access of pornography for our children, the sex trafficking, the human trafficking. I could go on and on and on, but you know what I'm talking about. When you have a nation that is so full of this moral rot, it is not sustainable. We need a revival in this country, folks. And I'm not being preachy in saying that. I'm not throwing a Bible in your face, although that's not such a bad idea perhaps. But we need a revival of morality. We need to raise a generation of Americans who know right from wrong, who are people of their word. You remember the day when you could shake somebody's hand and you had a deal? You remember the time when your word was your bond? People could trust what you said? When it seems like the majority of Americans were, the rank and file American was morally upright, even if they were a church goer or not, even if they were religious or not, they were, decent people. The fourth reason I believe that we are falling, the American empire is falling, is because of the welfare state. Now, when I speak of the welfare state, don't get defensive. I'm not just talking about poor people who are on government assistance. That is part of it. And let me just go ahead and explain. I have no problem helping someone who is in legitimate need. We should help people that are in legitimate need. If we have any means at all, we should help our neighbors. That's just the right thing to do. But I do have a problem with able-bodied Americans who have use of their limbs. They're not disabled. They can go out and work. They are able-bodied, but instead they play the system and they rig it to such a degree that they can make themselves government dependents needlessly, and they just make themselves a member of the government dole, and they sit home on their rear ends and watch cable TV and let you pay for it, those that are working for a living. That's not right. I am talking about them, but I'm also talking about corporate welfare, which is perhaps even more insidious. I'm talking about when the government gets in bed with private corporations and they just start playing footsie with each other. That's not right either. So the welfare state is contributing to the fall of the American empire, and the fifth reason the empire is falling is because of war. And specifically the expansion of the American footprint around the world in places it does not need to be. If you want to look at how to build a building, you look at the blueprint. If we want to look at the original moorings of the United States, it would be wise of us to look at the thinking and the writing of many of our founders And it was indeed our very first president, George Washington, who told us before he left office to stay away, in so many words, from foreign entanglements. What was he saying? He was saying other nations around the world are going to have their conflicts. You stay out of it. If you hear the neighbors fighting next door, the best thing to do is perhaps let them solve their differences. We have no business being in Ukraine, involved in Ukraine in any fashion. We had no business going into Iraq. We had no business going into Libya, into Serbia. We've got no business being in Syria. We've got no business being in Israel. We've got no business being in all of the places we are around the world. Over 800 military bases. Think about this for a moment. America has 800 military bases around the world. Do the math. How much money does it cost to sustain one military base? 800 military bases around the world, $34 trillion in debt. It doesn't match. We are systematically making ourselves weaker as a nation because we have spread ourselves so thin. And for the first time in a long time, or maybe in our lifetimes, America is more vulnerable than ever. Because we're spread so thin, because of our indebtedness, and we have lost the respect of other nations in the world because of this. It was pointed out in the interview we did yesterday with Dr. Barrett, and it was very insightful what he had to say about this. We have lost so much standing in the world because of what we're doing in Ukraine. It's basically us against the world in Ukraine. And our vassals, as he mentioned, Germany and England, who are going along with us because they pretty much have to. But all of the rest of the world is absolutely abhorred at what we are doing in Ukraine. They can't believe what we're doing in Ukraine. And we are losing our standing with these people. This is why you see the rise of BRICS, for example. Because those who are perceptive around the world leaders, are looking at America with horror, and they are saying, my God, America is falling. This need not be. This need not be. You know, I am an American. I was born an American. I'll die an American. And I love my country. But we can't be blind as to what is happening to us. We are losing this empire. Now, I want to talk for a moment about the word empire. I used it purposely. In saying that the American empire is falling, because the fact of the matter is we should not be an empire. If we had heeded the words of President Washington, we have a saying in the South, tend to your own biscuits. Had we not gotten so involved in these conflicts all around the world, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Libya, Ukraine, all these different places, all these different battlefields, all these different hot spots, why couldn't we just stay at home and mind our own business and protect our country? If Ukraine goes to pot, well, that's a shame, but it's Ukraine. It's not Texas. Ukraine is embroiled in war with Russia, but Texas is falling, and that's our state. That's our nation. But we're more concerned about the American empire in Washington than we are America, the United States. And it is this expansion of empire which is absolutely causing us to collapse. Now back to my hypothetical I led with. You have built this business, and now generational heirs down through the years are going to carry on your family name. Do you know why? Because you were always thinking about the future. You were always thinking about your legacy. Contrast that with America's leaders right now. Are they thinking about legacy? Are they thinking about the next generation of Americans? Do you really believe they are? Do you think if they were thinking about the next generation of Americans or Americans 100 years from now, do you think they might do something about the debt, about the debauchery, about the illegal immigration, about the war, about all these problems I've mentioned? Do you think they'd do something about these things? Do you know why they don't? It is because our leaders are collectively suicidal. We're either going to conquer the world or we're going to go down in flames. What we need in America, besides a revival of morality and a return to fiscal discipline and the discipline to mind our own business and stay within our borders, what we need are leaders who are concerned about legacy, the next generation of Americans, and what we will leave for them. Instead, we have leaders who only want to line their own pockets and enrich themselves and their family members. The American empire, I maintain, is falling, ladies and gentlemen. Will there be life in America afterward? I'm sure there will be, unless there's some cataclysmic event, which could happen. We live in perilous times. But it behooves us to take care of our own families first and to be thinking about our children and our grandchildren and those around us that we care about, those that we love, to take care of them. You know, this is a time for you to take care of your family, to take care of your loved ones, to take care of your children and your grandchildren and those that you care about that are like family to you, those perhaps that you work with. It is time for us to take care of one another. There's some things that are beyond our control, but what we can control, we must. We must be good stewards of that which is in our hands, if there's to be any future at all. If all the world around us is going to hell, if it seems like everyone around us is giving in to the moral rot, then you must be the person that stands up and stands firm and says, I will not give in to this. I will be a person of principle. I will be a person of character. I will be a person who does the right thing. It's that kind of person you can build a family business around. It's those kind of people you can build a nation around. And who knows, maybe one day we might have to rebuild this nation. Those are my thoughts today. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Please like this video if you would. Give me a big thumbs up. I would appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. I would appreciate that. Everybody go out there and have a tremendous Friday and a great weekend. Try and have a little fun. Why not? Trailer Trash Tim. I'll see you soon.